Hello dear students, double life, dual life. Amphi means what? Dual. Bios means what? Life. So once it is transformed into adult, we don't find the constant reading will definitely help you to remember all these points along with the example. Make dances to the tunes of the snake charmer. It's a wrong notion. It is called Naja Naja. Students, welcome back to session 13 of this very interesting chapter called Animal Kingdom. Hope you all remember in the previous session we completed the invertebrate phyla, that is about the 9 invertebrate phyla starting from phylum Porifera to Echinodermata. And also we studied about phylum Vertebrata, that is the animals which have 3 very important characteristic features, that is presence of notochord in the embryonic stage, later it is replaced by vertebral column in the adult, and presence of dorsal tubular nerve cord and presence of pharyngeal gill slits. Hope you remember that the whole of vertebrata was divided into 5 classes. 5 classes, that is class fishes, that is class 1, class fishes, then Amphibia, Reptilia, class Aves and class Mammalia. We also studied about class fishes, that is about cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. So that is the chondrichthyes and osteothys. We also studied about the differences between the cartilaginous fishes and the bony fishes. Hope you remember shark. Shark belongs to cartilaginous fish. So in today's session we are going to study about a very important class called class Amphibia. All of you might have come across a frog. So amphibians are the animals which were more dominant, and the Carboniferous era or the Carboniferous age. Carboniferous age is the age of amphibians. So Carboniferous age is the age of amphibians. What is so speciality of this amphibians? These amphibians have the capacity to live both on land as well as in water. Hence the name Amphibia. What do you mean by they are able to lead double life, dual life? Amphi means what? Dual. Bios means what? Life. So the animals belonging to this class called Amphibia can lead a double life, dual life. What is that double life? So it can live in water as well as in land. Hence the name Amphibia. And as I said, they are more dominant in the Carboniferous age, the Carboniferous age is the age of amphibians. Let us move on to the characteristic features of frog. I think all of you might have come across a varieties of frogs, and you might have observed the characteristic features of these frogs, right? Now let us study in detail about these animals. So as I said, these are amphibians living both in water as well as on land, hence the name Amphibia. So these live in aquatic as well as terrestrial habitat. So they live both on land as well as in water. That is one very important characteristic feature. The other very important characteristic feature is they require water for fertilization. Why? Because the process of fertilization, that is the fusion of the gametes, takes place in medium, that is water. Water is the medium for the process of fertilization. And the type of fertilization that is going to take place in amphibians is called external fertilization. External fertilization. What do you mean by external fertilization? The female frog goes to the water to lay eggs, and the male frog will come and shed the sperms on the eggs, and the process of fusion of the gametes will take place in water, hence the name external fertilization. So the process of fusion of the gametes will not take place inside the body of the animal, hence it is not internal fertilization, it is external fertilization. So so all of you might have come across rainy season is the best season for the breeding season for the frogs, because they will have plenty of water, and rainy season is the best season for breeding breeding for the frogs. So as I said, they require water for fertilization during sexual reproduction. Particularly, as I said, the female frog goes to the water to lay eggs, and the male frog will go and shed the sperms on the eggs, and the process of fusion will happen in water. But one thing you have to remember, that external fertilization is not advantageous when compared to internal fertilization. Why? Because the eggs that are laid in water may be washed away by the water current or may be eaten by the predators, and even if fusion take place, maybe the survival rate may not be possible. So that is the reason why the frogs lay good number of eggs to compensate the loss, because many of the eggs might be washed away in water current or might be eaten by the predators. So that is to compensate the loss of eggs that is caused due to that. So the frog lays good number of eggs. So external fertilization is less advantageous when compared to internal fertilization. But of course, the frogs require water for external fertilization. Next very important point, they are poikilotherms, or they are otherwise called cold-blooded animals. Like human beings, we are called warm-blooded animals. What is the difference between poikilotherms and we are called homeotherms? In cold-blooded animals, the body temperature is not constant. It keeps on changing according to the external environment. For example, in case of human beings, we are called homeotherms, warm-blooded animals. Our body temperature does not change according to the external environmental conditions. So these are cold-blooded animals. Very, very important characteristic feature of amphibians. First one is what? They are amphibians, that is they live both in water as well as on land. And they require what? Water for fertilization, particularly for external fertilization. And they are poikilotherms, or cold-blooded animals, where the body temperature is not constant. It keeps on changing according to the external environmental conditions. All of you might have even touched a frog. So you might have come across, the frogs are slimy and very smooth. So the skin is smooth, moist and vascularized. What do you mean by vascularized? You can see the blood vessels. You can see the blood vessels on the body. And you know, the very, very important feature in frog is that it can respire through skin called cutaneous respiration. It can respire through mouth called buccal respiration. And it can respire through lungs called pulmonary respiration. So frog can respire through three means. One is through skin called cutaneous. Why through skin? Because the skin is smooth and moist and vascularized, and hence also is responsible for what we call it as cutaneous respiration. Respiration through skin is called cutaneous respiration. And that is also a very important characteristic feature. As I said, it can respire through mouth when you call it as buccal, because you know, sometimes it goes for hibernation and sometimes it is a burrowing animal also. So when it is inside, it may use the skin for respiration. When it is on the land, it uses lungs for respiration. And when it is in water, it may use buccal for respiration. So it has three modes of respiration. One is through skin called cutaneous respiration, one through mouth called buccal respiration, the other one through lungs called pulmonary. Anything which has to do with lungs, we use the word called pulmonary. That is also very important characteristic feature. Then the alimentary canal. What is alimentary canal? The digestive system opens to an exterior, and that is called cloaca. This is also very, so it is a common passage for the reproduction as well as for the removal of the excretory waste from the body. So this is also a very, very important characteristic feature of the amphibians. So what is it? They live in aquatic as well as on terrestrial habitats, hence the name amphibians. Then they require water for, particularly for what type of fertilization? External fertilization. And they are poikilotherms, cold-blooded animals. The body temperature is not constant. It keeps on changing according to the external environment. And the skin is what? Smooth, moist and vascularized. What is it used for? Cutaneous respiration. What do you mean by cutaneous? Skin. Respiration through skin is called as what? Cutaneous respiration. And respiration through mouth is called buccal respiration. Through mouth is called buccal respiration, and respiration through lungs is called pulmonary respiration. Pulmonary respiration. So either it respires through skin or through mouth or through lungs. Hence the name. So it has three modes of respiration. And as I said, the alimentary canal or the digestive system opens to the exterior by means of an opening called what? Cloaca. So there is an aperture called cloacal aperture. And respiratory organs, I think all of you know that the process of development in case of frog is indirect. So they have development is indirect. What do you mean by development is indirect? When they include a larval stage in the life history. So they have a larval stage in the life history, hence we call that the development is indirect. Hope you all know that there is a very important phenomenon taking place in frog, and that is called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. What is metamorphosis? Transformation of a larva into an adult. This transformation is called as metamorphosis. So this is a very unique phenomenon that is exhibited by the amphibian, particularly the frog. So you can see the larval stage is transfer. So it lays eggs into larva into adult. So you might have come across the larval forms of a frog and they are mistaken for a fish because they have a tail. I think all of you know the adults will not have the tail. So the tail disappears when it is transformed into an adult. So metamorphosis is a very important phenomenon taking place in frogs. So the development is indirect, having a larval stage, and the larval stages will have what? As I said, the larval stage is led in water, and obviously they will have gills as organs of respiration. Gills as organs of respiration. As I said, in adult it might be through skin, or it might be through mouth, or it might be through lungs. But in case of larval forms, as I said, the larval form, it is an amphibian, it leads a double life. Half of the life is led in water, the other half on the land. So the larval stage is led in water, and obviously it will have as what? Gills as organs of respiration. So they may be internal or external. As I said, in case of adults, they are skin, buccal cavity, and the lungs are the organs of respiration. And another very important characteristic feature is heart. Heart is 3-chambered. Like human heart is 4-chambered with 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. But in case of amphibians, the heart is 3-chambered with 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. So heart is 3-chambered. Very important. As I said, the animals have started evolving or developing from simplicity to complexity. We can see how the animals have developed with better body organization as we go from lower to higher animals. As from the invertebrate phyla to vertebrate phyla, you can see a lot of developmental changes in the body, and that is how the higher animals have evolved. Next, they are oviparous animals. What do you mean by oviparous animals? Egg-laying animals. Egg-laying. They lay eggs. Viviparous means those are those animals which give birth to young ones. But these are oviparous animals. As I said, the frog goes to the water to lay eggs, and it lays good number of eggs. Why it lays good number of eggs? Because most of the eggs are washed away by the water current, or might be eaten by the predators, or may get damaged. To compensate the loss of eggs, they will lay good number of eggs. And as I said, the process of fertilization or fusion of the gametes takes place in the external medium, that is water, and that type of fertilization we use the word called external fertilization. And another very important thing is auditory organ called tympanum is present. You can see a hearing organ, what we call it as, right? Auditory organ called tympanum is present. All these are the very important characteristic features of that is class Amphibia. So what is it? They live in aquatic as well as terrestrial habitats. They require water for fertilization. They are poikilotherms, and the skin is smooth, moist and vascularized, supplied with blood vessels for cutaneous respiration. The digestive system or the alimentary canal opens to the exterior by means of cloaca. Then respiratory organs in case of larval stages is gills, and as I said, as it gets transformed into an adult, then it may respire through mouth, it is called buccal respiration, or it may respire through lungs called pulmonary respiration, or it may respire through skin called cutaneous respiration. And the heart is 3-chambered with 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. And these are oviparous animals. What do you mean by oviparous animals? Egg-laying animals. Then there is a presence of auditory organ called tympanum. All these are the very important characteristic features of class Amphibia. What are the examples you are going to give? You can give the example of frog, toad, hyla, Rhacophorus, then elites, that is toad. Toad is called as an elite. Then salamander, all these Necturus, all these are the examples for class Amphibia, a very important class to be learned, which is commonly asked in the examination. Next, what is cloaca? As I said, you can see this beautiful frog. See, and I think all of you might have come across some frogs are poisonous also, right? So, and even the size of the frog also varies. Toads are usually bigger than the frogs. And here you can see it is a green in color, right? Now, cloaca, as I said, it is a common aperture for both excretory waste and for the gametes. As I said, the alimentary canal opens to the exterior by means of a opening called cloaca, which is a common aperture for what? For the removal of the excretory waste and also for reproduction. As I said, fertilization is external and the development is what? Indirect. Why fertilization is external means what? The process of fusion of the gametes takes place in the external medium, that is water. The female frog goes to the water to lay eggs and the male frog sheds the sperms on the eggs, and the process of fusion takes place in water, that is outside the body of the parent, hence it is called external, and the development is indirect, having a larval stage called tadpole larva, which is led where? Which is led in water. And the whole of the body is divisible into head, trunk and tail. Here you can see head, trunk and tail. Actually tail you can see only in the larval stages. But it disappears. Tail disappears as it is transformed into adult. So once it is transformed into adult, you don't find the tail. So the body is divisible into head and trunk. All these are the very important characteristic features of class Amphibia. Moving on to the next very interesting class, that is class Reptilia. Just like how we call amphibians are the animals which lead double life or dual life, the reptilians are nothing but the creeping animals. They are creeping animals, right? And these were more dominant in Mesozoic era. So, Mesozoic era is the age of the reptiles. That means they were more dominant in the Mesozoic era. And what type of animals these are? These are creeping animals. Reptiles, that is creeping animals. You can see the beautiful picture here. That is tortoise, you can see this, right? So, you can see the crocodile. All these are what? Reptiles. See how beautiful these animals are, right? So, class Reptilia. Now, let us study the characteristic features of this very important class called Reptilia. Each and every class has its own unique characteristic features with good number of examples. As I keep on telling, points are also important, and at the same time examples are also very important. Do the comparative study, then that definitely you will not be able to forget the points. As I said, biology is very vast and there are innumerable terms and terminologies and characteristic features with good number of examples. So you may find it difficult to remember all this in your mind, but constant reading will definitely help you to remember all these points along with the examples. So let us start with a characteristic feature of class Reptilia. What are these animals? As I said, these are adapted to crawling mode and crawling mode of locomotion. So you can call them as the first successful land vertebrates, right? They are adapted to creeping or crawling mode of locomotion. They are also poikilotherms. What do you mean by poikilotherms? Just now I told you in class Amphibia, that is, they are cold-blooded animals. The body temperature is not constant. It keeps on changing according to the external environment. Whereas our body temperature remains constant and it does not change according to the external environment. Very important characteristic feature. Poikilotherms are, what is the other name for it? Poikilotherms are cold-blooded animals. So there are two, as I said. Poikilotherms, you can use a word called cold-blooded. Second one, homeotherms. Homeotherms, that is warm-blooded. So we have two types of animals. One is called cold-blooded, the other one is called warm-blooded. So these reptiles are what? These reptiles are cold-blooded animals. That is one very important. As I said, these are the creeping animals, and the Mesozoic era is called the age of the reptiles, and they are the first successful land vertebrates, and they are adapted to what? Creeping mode of life. Crawling is a mode of locomotion to move from one place to another place, and they are poikilotherms or cold-blooded animals, and they have two pairs of pentadactyl limbs. What do you mean by penta? 5. Dactyl means what? Digits. So the limbs end with 5 digits, hence the name pentadactyl limbs. But in case of snakes, limbs are absent. All of you might have come across snakes. Who is not afraid of snake? But one thing you should remember, children, all the snakes are not, they are not poisonous. So we have both the poisonous snakes as well as non-poisonous snakes. But we have a wrong notion that all snakes are poisonous and we kill them. But they are very, very important to maintain the ecological balance. Right? Imagine if snakes were not there, then imagine the whole food crop and the whole thing would have been destroyed, that is by the rats. So snakes are equally very, very important to maintain the ecological balance. But snakes, you don't know, you know that they don't have limbs, right? So they don't have limbs as organs of locomotion. Next, they are very important. Next, in some animals, the digits, the as I said, the digits will end with claws, very sharp claws, and that is also means of what? Protection. Predator to catch hold of the prey, or even to protect themselves from the predator. So in sometimes you can see here the claws. You can see in this animal the claw. Right. So here the digits are provided with what? With claws. Right. Next, they do not have external ear openings. You might have come across a snake charmer blowing that this one. Now, when a snake charmer plays that instrument, we feel that the snake is dancing. But to be very frank, snake does not have external ear. It can just feel the vibrations. But due to the movement of the snake charmer, then the snake will just nod its head or hood. But there is a wrong notion or a misconception that the snake dances to the tunes of the snake charmer. It's a wrong notion. So they do not have external ear openings, and this is also a very important characteristic feature. Next, heart is 3-chambered except for crocodile, where crocodile has 4-chambered heart. Though crocodile is a reptilian, but still only crocodile will have a 4-chambered heart, and the rest of the animals will have 3-chambered heart. All these are the very important characteristic features of this class Reptilia. So what is it? They are adapted to what? Crawling mode of locomotion. They are poikilotherms. They have 2 pairs of pentadactyl limbs. In case of the snakes, limbs are absent. The digits are provided with claws, and they do not have external ear openings. Heart is 3-chambered except for crocodile, where it is 4-chambered. You can see the beautiful animals in this picture. Moving on to the next very important characteristic features. They are the first true terrestrial vertebrates. As I said, they are the first successful terrestrial vertebrates. And the alimentary canal opens to the exterior, just like in frog, you can come across an opening, aperture, that is called cloaca. Then lungs are the respiratory organs. So here the lungs are the organs of respiration. And very important is the males in case of these reptiles are provided with what we call it as copulatory organs. And also you might have come across Jacobson's organ. Smell, organ of smell is very much prominent in these animals. So snake, as I said, it is not having external ear, but it can feel the vibrations, and with the smell it can identify. So the males are provided with copulatory organs, and fertilization is internal, whereas in case of frog it was external. Here the process of fusion of the gametes will take place inside the body, hence the process of fertilization is internal, and they are also oviparous, egg laying. You might have come across how much care they take of their eggs, right? Once they lay the eggs, they make sure that they hatch, and until they hatch, they take the utmost care. You might have come across this in case of crocodile, or maybe in case of snakes also, right? So fertilization is internal, and they are oviparous. Eggs are covered by what we call it as calcareous shell, and hence called cleodoic eggs. Hope you remember, eggs are of two types, cleodoic and non-cleodoic. Non-cleodoic. Here you can see the beautiful picture of cobra. It is called Naja Naja. See how beautiful this animal is, and here also you can see this, right? So eggs are covered by, so eggs are of two types. One is called cleodoic eggs and non-cleodoic. Cleodoic means what? Shelled eggs. Non-cleodoic, non-shelled eggs. Non-shelled eggs. For example, frogs eggs, fish eggs come under non-cleodoic. They are not covered by a calcareous shell. And what is the very significance of this calcareous covering? It is for protection, protecting the eggs till they hatch. But in case of frog and in case of fish, it is not covered by a calcareous shell. But in case of reptiles, we call it as cleodoic eggs because it is covered by a calcareous shell. What are the classical examples you can give? Chameleon, that is tree lizard. Chelone, that is turtle. Draco, right? Then Varanus, and as I said, all the snakes are not poisonous, right? There are some snakes which are poisonous and some are non-poisonous. So first we should make sure of the snakes which are poisonous and which are non-poisonous, because as I said, any snake we feel that it is dangerous and we try to kill them. So we should not do that. And cobra and crocodile, test tube, that is the tortoise. All these are the examples for class Reptilia. So what are the other very important features? There are two. They are the first true terrestrial vertebrates. The alimentary canal opens to the exterior by cloaca. Lungs are the respiratory organs. The males are provided with copulatory organs. Fertilization is internal and they are oviparous. Eggs are covered by calcareous shell, hence called cleodoic eggs. What are the examples? Chameleon you might have come across. It has a property called camouflaging. So it changes its body color according to the environmental background to protect from the predators. And chelone, turtle, draco, then cobra, crocodile, testudo, that is tortoise. All these are the examples for this very important class Reptilia. Hope you have understood two very important classes belonging to the phylum vertebrate, that is Tetrapoda, that is class Amphibia, and class Reptilia. So I will be back in the coming session with some more classes and with some more characteristic features with good number of examples. Till then, goodbye and thank you.